The internet changed my life twice, and while it has given me almost everything that I have today, once upon a time it was the thing that was destroying my life. And I think that there is something deeper to the internet that most young people nowadays struggle with. So when I used to grow up, I would watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I wanted to be like a gaming YouTuber like PewDiePie. I remember watching my mother come home from work struggling and exhausted from having to go to her 9 to 5. So I thought, if I can get freedom through YouTube and through what PewDiePie was doing, I can earn money through playing games, then my life would become way better. So one thing that I realized was that I'm sitting down and watching, and as I'm watching all of these videos on YouTube, I slowly acquire my skill of speaking English. So I was learning so much about YouTube and how to speak English just by having the internet. Of course, we're taught in school English as well. But then as I was literally focusing on this and on the internet, living my life on the internet, I started to become better and better at YouTube, and I gained so much knowledge from the internet, but at the same time, it was also one of the worst things that I had to go through, because there are so many bad things on the internet as well that I never ever should have seen. But that's the thing, everything is on the internet, so everything good and everything bad is on there. Another story is that when I was going to get my grades in musical class, I really loved to play music, but I didn't know how to read notes. I was okay in music class, but I would have loved to play the piano. So what I did is I just went home one day, sat in front of a keyboard piano that my sister had bought, but then I just pulled up a video of Yuruma, River Flows in You. Da 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 da. So how I learned was I watched a YouTube video where the notes are falling, so you can see visually where you should play. And so I would just keep on repeating the notes until I could play it perfectly. And then as I'm playing there, I'm literally so intrigued, and I realized just how much I could learn from the internet. And once I uploaded my playing of the video, after a few hours of practicing and learning the piece, I got an A in music. So by learning from the internet something unrelated that I hadn't really, okay, I'd known the basics from my musical class, but I didn't know how to read notes, had basically no music theory in piano, and the fact that I got an A just motivated me to keep on playing. Another story is that I loved to learn a lot, but at the same time, what happened was my attention span got worse. I wanted to do YouTube for my mother and such, but at the same time I was wasting so much time. I was scrolling on YouTube Shorts especially, and so what had become such a good thing for me was now starting to get me stagnant. And so one thing that I realized is that after years of being stuck and after years of having access to the internet, if I weren't focused on the right things and I kept consuming the wrong things, eventually the internet would do me more harm than good. What was great about the internet though is that when I learned to speak English, I learned to build up my YouTube channel, my gaming channel. I successfully built up my gaming channel to 195,000 subscribers. I retired my mother, and she had all the freedom. But then I'm laying in bed there. All I'm doing is making my videos, and I'm going back to bed to watch YouTube Shorts or to watch anime or to waste time. And so I'm stuck in this loop of procrastination Like, I'm making very good money and my mother has freedom, but I'm not growing as a person. But then it just got worse, actually. I mean, I did some pretty degenerate stuff, if I'm honest, and I like lost myself for a bit. And then it was only once I got my first girlfriend where I was so happy, and it was such an exhilarating experience, you know, the first love. But after I broke up with my first girlfriend, I realized just how stuck I was in life. And the thing is that if I had gone down the same path as I was making good money, but at literally all areas of my life, I was undisciplined, I was unmotivated, I had no goals. And so once I broke up, I decided to change my identity. Like, I wanted to become the best version of myself. This could not go on. So immediately, once I changed how I saw myself, my habits around the internet and my habits around everything changed. Because now, when I'm going into the internet, I am hyper-focused on watching the right videos about learning, about reading books, about human psychology. I wanted to improve my business and become a millionaire, so I had to learn skills that would make me a millionaire. For example, communications, sales, marketing. And the thing is that your algorithm will automatically move towards and curate based on what you watch. So automatically, once you start consuming the right content, it will be way harder to go back to the old habits, because now your feed is filled with all of these educational and motivating videos. And naturally, I spent less time on the internet, but I was actually getting more value. So it was more quality over quantity. And one thing that I realize now is that when I have the internet now, I'm discovering all these books, I'm discovering all these people, so many great people that I learn from, that I copy from, and then I curate it to my own experience, and I learn so much. I've realized that the internet is the most powerful tool in the world if you have the focus for it, and if you have it aligned to your goals and your identity. Because the reason that I struggled with YouTube, on the internet and just doom scrolling and such, it's because I hadn't really set myself a goal that required me to stop watching. When I couldn't afford internally to let it affect me, that I would just be wasting time and wasting my life, that's when I changed. I tried so many times to do this dopamine detoxing and such, but none of that worked because I didn't want to change. You cannot change a habit unless you change your identity. You need to change the core until you change the steps up to who you want to be. First, you change who you want to be, and then you have to change your habits. Your habits will actually change with it. And that is how I actually got discipline as well. So I think that the real lesson is that if you're struggling with the internet now, no amount of videos will ever stop you from changing. What changed for me was a negative experience that made me realize where my life was headed and that I needed to change. And so I changed my identity. And so unless you're in a really bad situation, unless you get to that really bad point where things are, well, if you're in a situation now where things are good enough for things not to change, not to improve, but it's not bad enough where you have to change, then you're never gonna change. So I think experiences will change us naturally, but people who decide to stay in the same situation that they were, they're the ones who will go down. And luckily I realized this. Otherwise I would have been so sad now. So just go through life, experience it, but really self-reflect on where your life is headed and who you want to be. because no amount of information will stop you from doom scrolling unless you think about yourself and your life. And that no video can teach you. At least that's how I did it. Of course, you may have your own way. Because if you don't do that, you may stay stuck for your whole life, never improving your life, feeling stuck, doom scrolling, not knowing what to do in life, feeling like you've always wasted your time. Because I was like this, I was just scrolling, and I'm scrolling there and I'm like, oh my God, my brain is rotting away. Success requires intention, failure only requires neglect. The hardest work most people don't do is think. When you're watching TikTok, like I was, or not TikTok, YouTube Shorts, that is actually amusement. And amusement means to not think. So the upside to actually thinking and changing your life is that you become more true to yourself, more aligned with your true self and what you really want to do, and the habits that you actually feel are productive towards your life and your goals. And you become more peaceful with yourself, more content in life, and generally just a way happier person. And you just become someone who loves to learn, actually, because changing your identity will force you to learn more, and learning is such a gift. It makes life so valuable. I love to learn. The internet made me love learning when it once stopped me from learning. And so I really do wish you the best and good luck in your journey, because it's not easy. And I still struggle sometimes with distractions. But the thing is that even when I'm scrolling now, I have the awareness to immediately stop. So I don't spend 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. I spend maybe 15, 30 hours distracted. I'm aware of it. But because I also have my goal aligned, like I can afford to distract myself a little bit. I have clear direction of where my life is headed, and I'm aware of when I'm doing something wrong, and I'm aware that I can change it. But that only comes through experience and self-actualization. So that's at least my experience. Maybe it will be different for you. I hope this really helped you, because changing your life, I didn't want to live my life living nihilistically and sad. And I'm really happy that I lived my life and changed through this. So have a blessed day, and I'll see you in the next one.